Welcome back, everybody. This is another OGGN special feature, and today I'm joined by Erica Cobb. How you doing today, Erica?
Hey, Mark. I'm so good. Thank you for having me.
Erica, I had to have you. What you and your peers are doing is amazing for our industry. Let's just jump right in the middle of it. You're out there with a pro-energy message, but not just pro-energy, pro-hydrocarbons, pro-oil and gas. How did you get involved in all that?
So it's an interesting story because I essentially have an oil and gas family, and I am a broadcast journalist. I have been a national talk show host for the past decade, and these are conversations that we've been having around the dinner table with my family. Me as a novice to the industry, but also understanding the disconnect in the communication when it comes to the energy industry versus, and I say versus because that's where we are right now, the general population, and the lack of understanding and also the lack of the bridging of the gap. So that all brought me here today.
And I love what y'all are doing. So you're out there creating content. You're creating content that doesn't have a political bias, or it's not based on opinions, it's facts, but it's talking about the truth, the realities of our energy and our energy mix. But you brought something up that I want to bring the audience back to, and that is your experience in the news space.
Yeah.
So you get to see this from a different angle.
Absolutely.
One of my problems in our industry, and I'm passionate about the oil and gas industry, I've been in it for 25 years, is as an industry, I don't think we always know what the general public thinks about us. We know there's negative public perception, but sometimes we think we can fix it with a simple, Super Bowl ad, or we can fix it with a half sheet, advertising special in the Wall Street Journal. None of that works, does it?
No, absolutely not. So I'm really glad that we're in a place where we can have this conversation without preconceived notions as to what this conversation is really about. This conversation is about how media has changed. Media is not just one note, one source any longer. Long are the days of a Walter Cronkite telling people what happened in the day, and then we're all kind of fixated on this idea of how the news was presented to us. Now with digital media, everyone is a content creator, and you have to be really specific about who your demographic is and how they consume information. The average American is consuming information in very small sound bites through digital media. Why is this important? It's important because we're using in the energy, and I say we, but in the energy sector, have been using this old formula for a very new day and a new game. So what we're doing with Positive Energy Campaign is very much the antithesis of that, where I would be sitting at, in a newsroom the day after the Super Bowl, dissecting all of the Super Bowl ads. Guess what we were not talking about? Ads from the energy space. Why? Because the Super Bowl is really a time to engage consumers with something that you are selling. If you are selling the notion of energy and how energy better works for you, the average American, then say that in a Super Bowl ad. That's not what the Super Bowl ads are really saying. The Super Bowl ads now are trying to get people to understand a world without energy. The problem with that is there's no synergy in the messaging. If you have a $33 million or 33 million times viewed Super Bowl ad and you don't have a follow-up and a call to action after, all of those efforts, all of that money is for naught.
Yeah. And you wasted all that, and you wasted the chance to actually help educate people about the realities of our industry. I love where we're going with this conversation. So when you look at what y'all are doing things different. That difference is done on purpose, yes, obviously, but you're also reaching a younger audience. Now, when I say a younger audience, the oldest millennial is now in their 40s.
Yeah,
so
that's me.
So in our space, now a lot of people that are VPs or directors or mid-level in their career, and they're the ones that see this disconnect. And yet our industry as a whole still doesn't want to change and change the ways they're doing stuff. And we have to change, people. We have to change the way we're messaging, the way we're getting that messaging out there, and the stories that we're telling. And I think y'all are leading the charge, Erica. And this is from somebody that runs a company that tries to do this exact thing. I think y'all are leading the charge, and I love the content y'all are putting out there.
Mark, thank you so much. I really appreciate you because I think it is very difficult. In order to get something you've never had, you have to be willing to do something you've never done. And perhaps you didn't see this change coming as someone who has been in the energy industry for their entire lives. Perhaps your family has legacy in the energy industry, and it's very difficult to change that perception. But now you're kind of being forced to, because the truth is the pipeline for new talent recruitment is vastly dwindling. And the reason why is because people have such a disconnect and poor understanding of what the energy industry is. The average person truly believes that anything that has to do with, your electric vehicles or green movements are completely devoid of oil and gas. That's not true. Right. You have to start to play ball with other people who are in the game. I use the example of Paramount because Paramount has over 200 different media assets, including Black entertainment television, MTV, which skews very young. You're also talking about like different avenues of communication, but what they do very well is it's one band, one sound, multiple instruments. That's how the energy industry has to think of itself. We can't think specifically about oil and gas versus nuclear versus green versus wind versus solar. All of those elements have to be brought together. And that's the reason why our company, Comeback TV Presents, created this newsroom model, because that's exactly what a newsroom does. It's one band, one sound, multiple instruments. And that is going to be the key to getting your messaging out in the energy industry.
Yeah, this may come out old-fashioned, but when I first saw you, the very first video after we met, the first thing that popped in my head was journalistic integrity. Mm-hmm. You've brought back journalistic integrity. Now, I think the news has taken a political slant on both sides. Yeah. I'm not picking one side versus the other.
Sure.
And so trying to get the truth out there doesn't seem to be as important. And when I watched y'all's first video, it just struck me as like, y'all are trying to get the truth out there, right? And to me, that journalistic integrity just shines through. And your content's actually fun to watch.
Thank you.
It's not boring content, which goes back to what the whole reason we sat down here is to let the industry know, if you want to get your messaging out there, you got to do things differently than you did it in 1989. You don't have a choice.
Mm-hmm. No, I totally agreed. And I appreciate that perspective of it. What we're really doing in terms of scaling this campaign for positive energy is our next chapter. We want to bring in these journalists. When we think about journalists or social media, we think of social media influencers like TikTokers telling us what to buy from the mall. That's not what's happening on social media, although it's a piece of it. But journalists are influential on social media. They're not social media influencers, right. Two different things. So we have Maro Award winners, we have Emmy Award winners. What really has happened with this campaign and the collaboration with the energy industry is we are a team of newsroom professionals. We are 100 deep in terms of our roster, from on-air talent to production to support. What all of these people have in common is we have the passion for telling stories. Now, we can take ourselves out of it or put ourselves into it. That's a curation game. But ultimately, we want people to get the truth, whether it's going to be controversial or it's going to be positive or negative in any direction. I think the energy industry kind of took their ball and went home a while ago.
I love how you put that.
Well, I think it really, that's what happened. And I can't say that I don't understand why. I mean, if you are an energy a resource that people need, and people are just saying, well, we don't need you, like, you're the devil, then what real incentive do you have to continue to stay in the conversation and move the conversation forward? But now it's coming to a point where the pipeline for new talent recruitment is dwindling, and that's a reality that affects everyone. Why aren't we talking about that? When we think about mass layoffs in other industries and the idea that people don't even understand how their skill sets can be transferable into the energy sector because they don't understand the energy sector, that is a missed opportunity. So I feel like everyone needs to come back to the table, and this is an opportunity to do just that.
Yeah, and you're 100% right. The oil and gas industry is dependent on engineers, project managers, accountants. And without those people, no matter what the technology can do for us today in 2025, you can't run a business. And for the first time in my life, you now have young people don't want to come work in our industry because they think we're destroying the planet. They're misinformed. Their hearts are in the right place.
Yeah.
If you talk to them long enough, you'll realize that they genuinely care. They've just been misinformed. And one of the things that several groups out there are doing, and your group is one of them, is trying to help with that misinformation. But you're also right in the fact that if we don't change this narrative, we're not going to disappear, but our internal cost of doing business is going to get so cumbersome and so overloaded that even the people in this industry may not want to stay in it, right? And we have to change that. And some of that's starting to happen now and in Europe. But when you look at the rest of the world needs abundant, reliable energy. I mean, babies are still being born by candlelight in parts of Africa. That's horrible. That should not happen. They should have electricity, right? And so, as an industry, I think we need to own that this problem we created ourselves years ago, and that I think we're the only ones that can fix it. And the rest of humanity depends on us in some form or fashion, because without us, modern life is impossible, and people just don't understand that.
Well, and I really appreciate bringing up the idea of energy poverty, because that's the conversations that I have with people. Obviously doing anything in the energy sector is going to create some heat, like in this type of climate in the media. Lucky for me, I have been in the oven for at least the past 7-8 years on a national talk show. So I am used to people having, their opinions and expressing their opinions to me. I just feel like this is something that not only deserves a nuanced conversation, we have to have a nuanced conversation in order to the key to survival of our planet. And I find it very scary from the standpoint of when I have conversations with people or people want to, ask me specifically about Positive Energy Campaign. I mean, I was just at Forbes a few weeks ago and I had this conversation because we were talking about fertility. And what people don't understand is how energy is involved in this beautiful scientific miracle. And so those are the gaps that I want to bridge with this Positive Energy Campaign.
Wow, why don't you end this on a powerful note, Erica? That's big.
Okay, seriously, Mark, if I told you that I have the answer to the future of communication when it comes to energy and how people understand how energy works for them, would you think I'm crazy?
Yes. And the reason I would think you're crazy is I don't know if there's one answer, right? I think it's multiple answers. And I think those answers change on who you're talking to, when you're talking to them, that sort of stuff.
I would agree with that. And that's the reason why the solution is a newsroom. It's a newsroom approach, because what is the newsroom? Ever changing. What is the newsroom? Ever communicating. Those are the things that you have to have in order for this initiative to be successful.
Dude, that was awesome. Let me try it from the other end. Erica, why can't
Wait. Yeah.
Okay. Erica, why can't we get our simple message out there where people understand what we're talking about?
Ooh, that's a very complex question, but I think I have the answer. It's a very nuanced answer, and the answer is collaboration. And the problem is people have stopped communicating. We can't all just take our ball and go home and say, well, you need our product, and then the other side is saying, well, you're the devil. How does that move the needle forward? What we're talking about is constant engagement. One thing that people tend to misunderstand is social media, digital media is a full-time job. That means constant messaging. That means constant engagement. And not only when it's in your favor. In fact, the times that the industry gets the most quiet is the times that they should be the loudest. When you don't need crisis management to come in at the 11th hour to save the day, when you've constantly been talking to the people who are affected the most. Those are very important times to be engaging, and that's not the time just because there's a crisis.
Love it. Look, it's time to wind everything down. What y'all do with the Positive Energy Campaign is amazing. We support them 110%. If you're a listener, we'll put a link in the show notes so you can go check out what they're doing. But contribute. Reach out to them. They're looking for good stories, good people. If you want to write a check, they're not going to say no to that. But we have to get our story out there as an industry. And Erica, you and your team are just doing a wonderfully brilliant job in doing that. So I appreciate you coming on and sharing some of your time with us today.
Yes, thank you so much. And yes, we are actively looking for collaborators. So anyone who would like to join us in this initiative, just reach out. You can reach out on Positive Energy Campaign or comebacktv.com.
Yep, link in the show notes. Go now.